Here's a little-known Black history science of mind fact. Pearl C. Wood was born in a small Arkansas town in 1892. A teacher, she became a seeker of spiritual truth. She relocated to Kansas City, where she became active in church and civic work. In 1930, she went to California. There she visited various churches but could not find the spiritual uplift she desired until one day, a voice inside her said, "The thing you're looking for is within you." She returned to Kansas City and became an ordained minister in the Metropolitan Spiritual Church of Christ. A short time later, she permanently moved to LA and founded Triangular Church of Truth in her living room in 1932. She became affectionately known as Mother Wood. The church grew, and 24 years later, in 1956, she affiliated with Religious Science. Ernest Holmes loved Mother Wood's ministry, and at one event stunned the crowd announcing, "If she's your mother, then I'm your father." When Mother Wood retired in 1972, her son-in-law, Dr. Philip Pitts, became senior minister at Triangular Center for Spiritual Living. And when he retired, her grandson, Reverend Greg Pitts, stepped into leadership. Mother, son-in-law, and grandson, 3 generations of strong spiritual leadership. Dr. Pearl C. Wood, a Black evolutionary in science of mind.
All right, so we have a very special guest today, my dear friend, Reverend Marquita Pierre McAlister. Reverend Marquita she's from Alaska, and she has some hair-raising stories about bears and cabins and things. She has been an entertainer. She's worked in the health field. She's a hospice chaplain. She had her first community in Alaska. And then moved to Las Vegas and has a beautiful community. She's founder of a beautiful community there. They're into their 9th year. And she's on the minister council and has been doing just extraordinary work. And she is truly a beloved. Please welcome Reverend Marquita Pierre McAlister.
Good morning. Hello. Oh, here I am. Good morning, community. So we have some Earth, Wind, and Fire. How many of you know who that is? My music director and I, we changed the words just a little bit to fit CSL. You good with that? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Past and the day still we walk in a path that leads to the light shining around on this great beyond. Thoughts ignite us, let love unite us, then turn your face to the wind and taste God's love within. kick it up a little bit, yeah? Hey, hey, hey! Woo! Oh, I like this. Y'all sound so good. Oh, I'm gonna do that one more time. I'm trying to go for it one more time. One more time. Here we go. Hey, hey. When we are ready to rise, sing a song. It'll make your day. Yeah, yeah. Let them see love in your eyes. Sing a song. It'll make a way. Yeah. When you walk by the hand and sing a song, it'll make your day. Oh, yeah. Love has become the plan. Sing a song. It'll make a way. Sing a song. Sing that song, y'all. Y'all can sing. Hey, hey. Sing a song. Let's dance. Hey. Go ahead, y'all. Come on. Come on. Get it, get it, get it, get it. Woo, woo. You gotta sing from your heart. You gotta sing from your soul. And forget everybody else is in the room. We're gonna sing. So let's do it again. Sing this song. Sing a song. Sing a song. All right, so this is where you get to participate. Okay, so I'm gonna come on over here to this side of the room. Now listen, y'all, I'm gonna sing it first, and then I want you to sing with these beautiful ladies right here after me, okay? It's gonna go real simple, real simple. Goes like this. Sing a song, sing a song, sing a song, sing a song. Y'all can do that, right? Go for it right now. Sing a song. Come on, sing it out. Let me hear you. Sing a song. This side of the room. Come on, y'all. Sing a song. Sing a song. Okay. Very good. Give yourselves a hand. Come on, clap it out. Clap it out. Give yourselves a hand. Very good. Now I'm gonna come on over to this side of the room. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Your part is easy too, but it ain't like theirs, okay? So I'm gonna sing it, and then you sing after me. Y'all good? All right. Goes a little like this. Sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a song. Sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a song. Sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a, sing a song. Sing a, sing a, sing a. Y'all can do that, right? Do it now. Come on. Sing a, sing a, sing a, sing. Yeah. Let me hear you. Sing a, sing. Oh, come on, y'all. Get it, get it, get it. Hey. Yeah. Now we gonna put it all together. Y'all ready up here? Go! Sing a song! Sing a song! Sing a song! Yeah! Yeah! Sing a song! Sing a song! I like it, I like it! Sing a song! Do it again, do it again, do it again! Turn to your neighbor, turn to your neighbor, tell them! Sing a song! Yeah, yeah! Oh, get it, y'all! Woo! Here it is in the house! Let God sing for you. We are here, everybody's at the table. Everybody, yeah. Sing a song. Oh, you are wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Oh, that feels good. Are you awake? Yeah, baby, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We didn't know we were going to have a choir this morning. How fun is that? I love it. Thank you, and thank you, Marquita. Yes. All right, so one of the things Marquita said is that her purpose is to awaken humanity. And she and I were going to have a little conversation up here, because that's what we do.
It is what we do.
We do a lot of that. A lot of conversation about all kinds of things, ministry and boys and children who are boys.
True.
And all life and on all kinds of things. So we're wrapping up our conversation on love and Black History Month. And if you recall, our theme has been Set an Open Table. And so we talked about, in the first week, we talked about the idea that the table is set. The banquet of life from spirit is always set. And the question is, are we bringing ourselves to the table? Are we receiving that? The second week we talked about love in a divided world and how challenging it is when we confuse love and like. And that from the idea that love is the answer is a spiritual perspective that we use towards all people, regardless of whether we quote unquote like them or not, or like their ideas. And how we can, I just want to, as a side, I saw the headline of an article. I didn't read the article, and it said, America doesn't need a divorce, they need marriage counseling. And I thought, there you go, right? There you go. That is it, right? Because that's exactly right. When two people are, all their differences have come up, we have to find that deeper place of love. We had Dr. Harbla, which was lovely on non-attachment, which is also a challenging piece in our ability to love and think of things that are important to us. And then finally today, we're talking about who is invited. Who's invited? How are we inviting people? Are we inviting ourselves? All the different ways, right, that we can think about and talk about this, who's invited. And of course, especially in this topic of love and Black History Month. And while Black history is so much about celebration of the contributions that are so often overlooked or not included in so many ways, it also gives us an opportunity to really engage in the conversations. Who is invited and how are we inviting them?
And how we take the science of mind principles and use it in these pieces we call love, of course, because we do that all the time. How do we use this piece in Black history and Black culture? Yeah. And so, we started this conversation, and I shared with Marquita that we have, in this community, we've had a real commitment to this over the years. We've seen our diversity grow. And over the course of time, we've also had some of the kind of, normal misunderstandings, normal conflicts. I'm not conflicts, but disagreement,
or just really truthfully not understanding. So you saw these beautiful videos from the African American community, our African American circle. And I remember when we started the African American circle, some people asked, well, why do you need that? Right? And that there's a sense of, that Black people like to hang around with Black people, and I remember when I first started dating women, and I realized that there were a lot of gay people. All they wanted to do was hang around with other gay people, and I was like, that seems really strange to me. If we're really focusing on diversity, if we're really wanting to include everybody, why would you just want to hang around with gay people? And so that became quite a conversation in our community. So we know that you don't speak for all Black people.
I do not. I do not speak for all Black people. I do not speak for all Black ministers. I do not speak for all Black practitioners. But I do speak for Marquita.
Yeah, there you go, right?
I do.
And so, it's same thing here. But, we all have our opportunity to explore a little bit. So, so that was a little, it was hard sometimes for people in our community to understand.
Well, it was in my community, too.
Yeah.
During the George Floyd whole episode, we held 3 healing forums. And I specifically said we're going to hold a Black forum, we're going to hold a white forum, and then we're going to hold a forum for anybody and everybody. And I absolutely got pushback because people didn't know, why would you do that? That sounds like division. And so here's what I want everyone to know, and this is true, you just maybe haven't thought about it. But regardless of what your culture is, there are idiosyncrasies within your culture that when you're in your own culture, you don't have to explain. You don't have to explain. You know, when I'm in my own culture and somebody says, girl, you need to handle that kitchen, I know they ain't talking about the one in my house, okay? I already know what they're saying. I do. I know what they're saying. But when I'm talking to people who are not within my culture, I would never, number one, we don't use that lingo.
Right.
So it's not a division. It is simply celebrating and being comfortable within the culture that you're in. You're right. We do not, in America, I don't know why they call this a melting pot. I think that's just dumb. Okay, because it says it wipes out the ethnicity, the cultures of other people. We're all supposed to come together and be one. Now, in spirit, of course, we're all one. We come from the same space, yes. Same place, yes. Same love, yes. And God would be so boring to create everybody to be the same. Oh, jeez. Right? So no, instead, we have different nationalities, we have different religions, the variety, which makes it rich. And then we can learn from each other and be in our spiritual authenticity while this house is in me. Yes?
Yes. See, and I love that. And when Marquita started having these conversations, one of the things that I noticed is that you talk about culture, right? And it's not just about race, but it is about the culture in which we are raised.
I learned something a long time ago. There is one race, human. So I don't deal with race.
Right. And how fascinating it is in the science of mind, we can be sticklers for words. Right? Because we know that when we do our spiritual mind treatment and we do our spiritual work, the word is so critical. And I thought that was really, I really had to stop and think about that. When my parents immigrated from Germany, my mother didn't speak any English, and there was a huge German town in Philadelphia. And they deliberately decided not to do that, because they decided there was nothing in Germany that was left for them there. They were making a new start, and they didn't want us to grow up as German Americans. They wanted my sister and I to grow up as Americans. So they made a very deliberate decision not to enclave in that culture. And I know that was very, very difficult for my mother. She told me she learned how to speak German from the Sears and Roebuck catalog, and she learned how to speak English from the Sears and Roebuck catalog and from movies, right? But it's very isolating. It's very challenging. It was very challenging for her to find all those idiosyncrasies. She got to learn that when somebody said, "Oh yes, drop by anytime," they did not mean that.
Right. Right.
Right? Whereas in German, you say what you mean what you say, period. And so we need those spaces where we can be comfortable, we can talk about things from that kind of the culture or just the way in which we speak. And of course, we have the historical, I think, underlying bias that for so many years, the black culture in the United States through slavery wasn't acceptable, right? And so how empowering it is, and how important it is, and how for white people, we have to not be afraid of that. And,
absolutely not.
And not feel excluded from that. And then finding those ways where we are actually, then I love that what you said, then there's the third group for all of us together, right, that comes from that deep spiritual place.
And what I found was, because I did do the so-called separation, because there were different groups, the African-American people were able to truly express how they felt about the incident and the things that had been happening to them through their life because of the color of their skin. Right? And the white people, so I had fun because I couldn't be in the room. I took 2 people from Agape International Spiritual Center for Truth. and they ran the white group, which is great. And then they kind of reported back to me. But that way, they could just speak what was definitely on their heart. right? Completely. And then when the groups came together, there was an opening that had gotten created because they were able to completely get the anger, the fear, the I'm sick and tired of this or whatever it is. And well, I don't know how to talk to black people anymore because of this now. I'm afraid to talk to black people, which is why I started this whole thing. Because one of my Caucasian congregants was devastated. And it's like, but everybody's my friend. Why? I don't know what to say to my friend. So all that stuff got out, and then when we came together, the heart was completely much more open. They weren't afraid anymore. They had gotten it out, and now we can talk to each other because we're in a healing forum.
Right.
And it healed a lot of stuff.
Right. And how powerful that is and how important that is. And one of the things that we learned in our leadership lab that you and I have had the joy of experiencing is that I've been able to ask Marquita some of these questions because we've been friends for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we started out being friends and talking about ministry, and then we talked about our boys, how we were tearing our hair over our boys, right? And we built all of those connections, which then allowed us to have continually deeper and deeper conversations. And I think we forget that.
Well, what's important is we built a trust and a love. And so let's be clear that for any black person to go to a white person or white to go to black and expect all of that to be laid out, not going to happen, right? Because there's a love and a trust that has to happen first. Like, I don't know if I trust you to keep anything that I have to say that has to be as a black American. I don't know if I can trust you with that. And as a white person, you don't know if you can trust me with that. Heck, America's still going round and round about all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But when we come heart to heart, and when we choose to use the principles of science of mind, something quickly, not years, quickly gets established, and you know. Your intuition, that is within you, tells you who you can and cannot trust. You know what I'm talking about? Right? Right? And then it's okay. So we also had some other stuff go in our community that was racially, I didn't know it was there, I'll just say that. And it was there, and it really was about, but I love you. Well, if you love me, you take time to get to know me, understand me, and not judge me because of the color of my skin, or because you're afraid to talk to me because of the color of my skin. You don't want to offend me. Mm-hmm. In our community right now, we're going through this thing being candid with each other. Fascinating.
You want me to be authentic? Are you sure? Really?
Right. And I'm authentic with myself, at least I try to be, right? I had a continuum, right? And they marked the X about themselves. And then I had them do it as a group of how we see each other. How do you see so-and-so? Right? We had this whole process go on. Interesting. Then I had them take their card and match it to how we saw each other. Yeah. Two different things. How people see you versus how you see yourself, usually not the same, which is why it's so important to just open your heart and listen. Regardless of what color of skin the person is in, they want the same as you. Yeah. To be heard and valued. Yeah? So that's the part of race that I don't know, this race thing, why we get caught up on that, and we get caught up so much in our history. Yeah. Yes, black people have come from, first we were kings and queens in Egypt and all that wonderful stuff, and then you get this whole slavery piece. And now, for some reason, many people, especially without science of mind, I'll just go there. Without science of mind, many people feel that the white man is still stopping them from doing something. Mm-hmm. And our teachings don't teach that. And it may be, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Back in the day it happened, but here's what I know. Remember, I'm speaking from me. Here's what I know. When I got deep in the science of mind, I didn't care what color you were. You weren't stopping me. Okay, not happening because God put me on the planet to do what I must do. And what I found is because of the spiritual practices, that which appeared to be blockages in my way, I just steamroll right on over them. Yeah. It doesn't matter what culture you come from, the culture is God. That's the deepest piece. And when you are so steadfast in that, when you are powerful in that, nobody and no thing can come against you or above you or even under you. It's really true. I have had the same experiences of everybody else. People calling me the N-word and all that. Bless their heart. you know, and that when I didn't know any better, when I didn't have these teachings, that disturbed me. It did. How dare you, blah, 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 or I'd be frightened. Oh, baby, the fact that you don't understand how amazing I am, that's your problem, not mine. Okay? I know you're amazing. The fact that you clearly don't know that you're amazing on your own, so you have to try and demean me, that's your problem. Because it's just not truth. You stand in your truth and you walk in that. And it's amazing. Remember, the universe always, always, always corresponds to what you are holding in here. So if you know you're put on this planet to be amazing and fabulous, then you keep going. If somebody promotes somebody above you, whatever, God's got my back. God is my source. And when you hold that energy, one of two things happens. You're either moved out of that position to something greater and better with some other company, or it's strange what happens that person can't fulfill their position and somehow you get promoted. It's amazing, right? The universe has a zillion ways to promote who and what you are when you are clear on who and what.
Yes, right? Can I ask you, would you be willing to share about your son a little bit? That you
Of
had
course,
talked
my
about
son
that
has.
Systemic.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Okay, so yes, thank you. I really want to say this because in the African American culture and history, it is clear, and it is said, we know it, we've heard it a million times. America is horrible and treat black men a particular way, and they end up in the system. The statistics show that, many more black men are in prison versus any other culture in our country. So, some years ago, one of my children, I have lots of children, just so you know. I do. But one of my children, male, right, ended up in the system, and I was floored, the list of what they said he had done. Now, I know my child. I'm objective, and I still know my child, and it wasn't all that. I learned from the attorney that's not how it works. They charged them with everything under the table in hopes that the person will want to plea bargain out. So then you drop the charges. Oh, yeah, that's a good deal. I'll take that. That's what they hope for. So recognizing that that's the way the system works, which I did not know until then, I said, okay, this is interesting. What I recognized was, here we go again. This is where I started. Here we go again. Another black male into the system. Here we go. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Let's get the Black Caucus. Let's get the NAACP, blah, 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 blah. And Spirit said, pray. Okay. So I got my ex-husband. He was my ex-husband, right? The child's father. And we started praying. We started praying 7 days a week. It did go down to 5. And when things really got moving, we were like, okay, clearly we're onto something. It went from the young man being in, now let me say this. Some of our children we raise in science of mind, and some of them get it, and some of them quite don't get it. You know what I'm saying? This is one, he understood it, but it wasn't that he was really practicing, okay? Thank God for the incident. My ex-husband said to him, we are not about to put any money towards this, so public defender it is. And then he said to him, and you need to research your own case because you got this list of charges. Go find out what's real and what's not. Anyway, he started doing that work, and he found out, sure enough, they were, doing all their stunts that they do. Some of the things weren't even on the books anymore. The laws were old, blah, blah, blah. But then what happened was he understood that we were praying for him every day. He started to pray for himself. Unbeknownst to us. Then what happened was we noticed when we were praying, our prayer changed. Because you may start here energetically, be like, there's some fear, there's some worry, there's some concern. But when you pray and you pray earnestly, the prayer starts to change. We started to change. Then we started praying for the prosecutor. Then we started praying for the judge. And then it was like, wait a minute. God's like, it's bigger than that. You need to pray for this system. That this system that consistently does this will not do this to your son. This system is for your son, and he's going to prove it. So we ended up doing that work. And so you recognize now we've moved from the energetic of, OMG, another black man in jail, now what are they going to do to my son, to prosecutor, I know you're doing your job, but you're a son of God, the Almighty too, just like us. You are not separate from us. You are one with us. We were just really clear. And then it went, wait a minute. This system is not separate from God. God is in, through, and around this system, and the very perfect outcome is about to happen here. So in all of that was happening, and then something really strange happened, which I have to share with you. Lots of the strange things did, but this is one of the strangest. My ex-husband called me. He said, Marquita, you sitting down? Okay, I'm sitting down. He's like, so I have a letter here that was supposed to go to our son. I said, okay. He said, I have the letter, Marquita. Okay, I don't understand. The letter is addressed to the son that's in jail, but I have the letter, Marquita. I said, how did that happen? He's like, I don't know, Marquita. It was in my box, but it's addressed to the jail. To this day, we have no idea how that happened. What's significant about that? What was in the letter would have devastated the son that was in jail. Wow. He wasn't supposed to get that letter. He could have committed suicide over that letter, but it didn't get to him. That is the power of prayer. When they say God makes all things possible, it is really true. So he didn't get that letter. He don't know nothing about it, and his whole life is changing. The very person in Catholicism, they have contemplative prayer. Mm-hmm. And my ex-husband was part of that, and he had met the person who developed that, blah, blah, blah. Guess who was doing services at the jail on Sundays? The author of contemplative prayer. And so my son ended up going there, learning all of that, started meditating, started writing, all this reading. Couldn't get the boy to read before. Started reading. Here's the outcome. On another day, my ex-husband called me. He said, Marquita, I just came from our son. And I went to go, what do you call that? You pray with him and inspire him, uplift him since he's in this situation. I said, okay. He said, Marquita, I'm sitting here totally in awe. I said, what? He's like, I wasn't the practitioner. He was. What? He said, Marquita, I'm so high, I don't know what to do. Something has happened to our son. He prayed like a true practitioner, Marquita, and he was on it and gave me advice. And I said, who are you talking about? Right? All right. So those are some of the miracles, but here's the last one. We get to court. I fly to Alaska, we get to court, prosecutors on this side. Behind the prosecutor is a family who was saying that my son did X, Y, Z. On this side's the defendant, and us, my son's over here. The ex-husband, he goes up and he does his little testimony about, we don't know why this is happening. We didn't raise this child this way. You know how that goes, right? I went up and kind of did the same thing. And so I know something good is going to come out of this, but let the system work. We sit down. My son speaks to the judge. He says what he has to say. It is the defense attorney, right, goes. And then the prosecutor goes. He starts speaking. I look at my ex-husband. We're listening. Whose side is he on? He sounds like he's on our side. By the time it was done, the man was saying, I'm sorry, Judge, it looks like we made a mistake here, blah, 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 all on my son's side. The judge confused the judge too, like, okay, so the defense attorney speaks. So when it was all said and done, the judge says, now I have to give you the maximum sentence. But based on this, and he just took it away, and the next thing I know, in 2 months, my son's out. He's done. It's over.
It's beautiful, right?
Now, I tell you that story, that's my story. I'm not going to go into the next story, but I relayed this story to someone else, black child, in jail. The person called for assistance. We did something similar. Same thing happened. I get there's a system. But don't allow the external world to determine what's going to happen in your life or anyone that you cares for life. Yeah. You must stand still. You must stand strong and know that God is in charge. When you're in that vibration, there ain't nothing that can take you down. It just isn't. Okay? That's just my story.
Well, and I love it, right? Because you've wrapped up everything. Because what you did was you loved, right? You loved your son, but then you turned around and you loved the prosecutor.
Absolutely.
And then you loved you kept opening and opening and opening, right? And then you get to see, right? This is why we know how to do this. Do you see? You and your family went from the individual experience and kept broadening it and broadening it and broadening it until you were working to pray about the system, right? And that's where we're part of the whole. Our work, our individual work is not separate from the work that we're doing. And Thomas Troward says we raise ourselves above the law of averages. That's the system.
Yes.
Right? The law of averages. This is what happens with black men or, trans women or whatever, right? We raise ourselves above the law of averages. But when that is larger than just the individual, I want my son to, be safe, great. But that's who's invited. You invited the prosecutor to your table, to your consciousness. You invited to your consciousness, right? And that's like it's so counterintuitive. And what did Jesus say? He said, oh yeah, it's easy to pray for your friends. The question is, are you praying for your enemies?
Sincerely.
Right? Sincerely. And to see that this is the power of consciousness. This is the power of when we stand in that place and we say, this is not okay. That was not okay. So we're going to see it changed, see it whole, see something new revealed, which is actually the outpicturing of love. We're all in this together. We're all, all of that. And I'm so grateful you shared that story. Right? Because it's so easy to get caught into the individual thing and not realize, or we're just gonna fix the system somehow, and it's that work. It's that work that each one of us is doing.
If you are called to go fix the system individually, do this other outer work, then do that. But when you are not called to do that, stop bad-mouthing and do this.
Yes.
Work on this.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, right. And in each case, right, we're always trying to do it, not trying. We're always doing it rooted in our spiritual principles, which means we actually believe that change is possible.
Yes.
We talked about this in the Science of Mind class this morning, right? Grow the consciousness around the particular good and then work to be receptive and stop saying, well, it's always been this way. Look at all those people. I mean, I catch myself, for me, it's about climate, right? And I catch myself and I want to start berating people who aren't paying attention and them. Oh, I have a whole list of them, and to invite in my consciousness that particular good and be receptive that it is possible. And that when we invite people in, right, we invite them into our consciousness, then we're inviting them to the table. So as we bring our time to a close about love and Black History Month, and we're really facing, in a way that we've never done before, all the unconscious things that are going on in our culture, in our communities. And we've spent, in the Science of Mind, we've spent the last 100 years doing this about our own personal lives, right? Which has been fabulous. We needed to do that. We needed to learn that. Learn we could heal ourselves, we could change ourselves, we could grow, we could recognize the truth of our being. But now, collectively, you, right here in this room, Reverend Marquita, with her commitment to awakening humanity, do you see, we're growing Science of Mind. We're expanding what it is that we're doing and recognizing that the very same tools, the very same truths, the very same principles are what heals and shifts the collective consciousness.
True.
And that's what
True.
we're about. So please
True.
give lots of love to Reverend Marquita, Pierre, and McAlister. Now you see why I love her so much.
Thank you.
so
Absolutely.
much.